Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so today on factory farms, animals are crammed by the thousands into filthy cages, rooms every day. Severe animal life issues are threatened every day. I know a lot of people like to go eat at like McDonald's, Burger King, fast food chains like that. But what most people don't know is these people get their food by practices known as factory farming. The main inputs of factory farming is to strive to maximize output while minimizing costs. Basically, that means they're trying to get as much food out as possible with the least amount of money. And factory farming is something that's not a good thing. So factory farming is morally wrong and it's completely unnecessary in the United States. Factory farming not only impacts the animals that they are being farmed, but it also impacts us as consumers as well as the environment. A quote that I found out that directly relates to this is by a man named Albert Schweitzer. And the quote is, "No one may shut his eyes and think that the pain which is therefore not visible is non existent, or think occasionally of the suffering of which you spare yourself the sight." And this was relevant to me because I thought that most of us don't really know about factory farm. We don't see what's going on in these farms and stuff like that. So I thought that was relevant and cool. So my first talking point, how factory farming is abusive to the animals that are being farmed. So, um, let's see. So, animals, for example, they're most of them like cows. They're cramped up from birth. Their legs are tied together so they can't move, producing better meat for like veal and food, such like that. Chickens, when they're born, they're separated between male and female, and the males are just completely cast away and thrown into something called like a shredder. You might have seen videos like that on Twitter. That's not, like I said, that's severe animal issues that are affecting us daily. My next teaching point will talk about us, how it affects us as consumers. We all love eating at McDonald's, getting the 10-piece chicken nugget, 20-piece chicken nugget deal. I love that. That's my favorite. But something they don't show you is they actually inject the animals and the food that is getting farmed with hormones and stuff that can kick back and affect how we take antibiotics into our system. And that's bad because if we build up an immunity to the antibiotics, then it won't work if we get sick in the future. Which brings me to my last talking point, which how factory farming is affecting the environment as well. So they have all these animals cramped into all these farms, all these different places. Where does all the waste go? The waste usually dumps into an emission plant that it's literally just a cutout into the ground where they just filled with water that they just dump all the waste into. And 33% of the U.S.'s methane emissions come from factory farming. So, and that's obviously not good because that's terrible for the greenhouse gases, terrible for environment, global warming, everything like that. So, yeah, the effects of factory farming, it's terrible. It's not good for us. And yeah, that's my speech on factory farming.
Okay, thank you. Next, I think it's Gracie.
All right. So let's face it, college students and struggling financially right now is our calling. So whether it's the FOMO kicking in or it's the late craving nights, something is always urging us to spend money, and we think, why not? But what if there's a way to save money while also still enjoying your college experience? So I've hopped on pretty much all the struggle buses of college, and a big one was breaking the bank. And I usually try to be as frugal struggle, but like we all know, it can be hard. And I always want to cave into the college life, but I realized that doesn't mean you have to spend an insane amount of money. So I found the best ways to save money for me. And those things are thrifting, coupons, cheaper stores, free events on campus, and other things. And so I really believe that living this life is beneficial. And saving money in college will not only be beneficial now, but in the future as well. You'll learn beneficial tips and the best ways for you to save money and the importance of saving money in college. So something to discuss with this is, why is it so important? And so it has a heavy importance and then finding cheaper alternatives helps get rid of the burden of not having money and graduating with a big debt. Saving money helps set up a sense of responsibility and good habits for yourself. It sets yourself up and your future self. and it helps put a step forward in your life, and this is really important. And it's a key to financial success is how you spend money and how you save it. And so saving money is easier than you think. There are many ways to save money. Nowadays, we have the internet, we have apps, we have coupons, we have free events, we have thrift stores, we have everything. So the main part, let's talk about food. Grocery shopping has a simple solution, and just go for the cheaper options. There are places like Aldi's, Save A Lot, Dollar Tree, any of the Dollar Tree or any of the dollar stores here on campus. We have a lot of places. The bigger stores like Walmart and Kroger, they also have sales and reward cards that have great benefits as well. And so you can also make grocery lists and shop online to help you stay on budget, and it avoids like unnecessary items and impulse buys. And so if you are a college student and you have a meal plan, I can't stress this enough, just use the meal plan. There's different places on campus to eat. So if you're paying for it, why would you not save money? This food is readily available. There's also events on campus that hand out free food. You just have to look around or ask around about it. But if you don't have this option of a meal plan, then eating out does have cheaper options. There's apps that have free food. There's coupons. There's cheaper items. Just get cheaper items on the menu. There's plenty of different ways to save money on food. And so just to take advantage of these. And so for entertainment, there's always free events going on campus, whether it's the organizations that's setting them up or it's the university. There's always fun things to do. So if you just look at your email or stay involved, there's plenty of things. And if you like movies, there's things like Hulu, Netflix, Redbox, just other things like that online. But if you do feel the need to go to movies, then Athens actually has a really cheap movie price. So that's luckily for us. Shopping also has alternatives too, cheaper alternatives. And some may not like it, but thrifting is a great place. You can find so many there's so many cheap things, there's different things too. You just have to look a bit harder. There's also like retail shops that have coupons and sales if you don't like thrifting. And there's also apps that you can buy or sell used clothing on. And then a big thing to stress is just get a job. If you have enough time in your schedule, the campus is always hiring and they are very flexible. And so saving money does have a really big impact to your future, and it's very effective. With the savings you have, use it to pay off your debt. You can even start now. Paying this off will be less restraining for you in the future, and it'll be less of a burden. But if you don't have debt, then good for you. But you can use it to establish yourself. Just set your life up, or you can use it for your family. Money won't be as troubling as if you did have this. If you didn't have this savings, that can be a big component. So if you have the savings, it will make a big difference.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done. Sorry.
In college, keeping an eye on what you're spending and how much is so important. It may be hard, but it'll be great in the long run. And to better your future, it is beneficial to save money while in college. And I hope these tips will be beneficial to you and to be effective in your future.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have Krista.
I'm a little sick right now too, so if I have to drink water in between, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I will be talking about how a bill becomes a law. The reason I first thought of this was because of a video that I'm sure many of you had to watch in school too. It was the Schoolhouse Rock video with the little cartoon boy and the little cartoon paper sitting in Capitol Hill and singing a song. Although it was pretty catchy, it was pretty informative too, but it didn't really express the importance of why you need to know these processes and how in-depth these processes really go. No one knows how many laws are actually enacted in the United States. There's over 23,000 pages of laws in record today and 20,000 laws governing just the use of guns, and that is only a few of those pages. So There are a lot of laws, and it's important to know the process behind them all. As somebody who lives in the United States, I have a right to know and understand how these laws are set in place, and so do you. There's a process that each potential law goes through to reach lawful status, and by understanding these processes, you as a citizen can feel more connected with the government in power. As a 21-year-old living in the United States, I have a responsibility to myself also to understand how laws can be enacted. There's more to being an active citizen than just voting, although that is extremely important. That's one simple part of how laws are set in place in the country. By understanding these processes, it'll come in handy as I grow older in the country, or as I grow older now, especially out of college, and it will for you too. Each law goes through a rigorous and complex process between the executive and legislative branches of the government, and I will be discussing how they're introduced, amended, and either killed or enacted to become a law. So first, we're going to talk about the introduction of the bill. Anyone in the country, you or me, can introduce or think of the topic for a bill, but it has to be sponsored by a congressperson before it's actually introduced into Congress. A bill can be introduced in either chamber of Congress by a senator or a representative who sponsors it. Once it's introduced into one chamber of that Congress, one member of that chamber of Congress can also sponsor the bill. There can be as many sponsors as it wants from one chamber of Congress once it's introduced. Following the introduction, it's referred to a committee, a subcommittee, or multiple different committees. Usually it starts in a smaller committee so that the major issues can be worked out before it reaches a large group of people where they can do a lot of the smaller nitpicking on the things that need to be worked out within it. After introducing the bill, an extensive process of committee hearings actually occur. Within all these committees, the members will research, discuss, and make changes to the bill. This could include hearings where they can call people from the citizens of the United States or other government officials to give testimony on the bill regarding other legislature and their own opinions of the bill. It's essential to have the support of the citizens throughout this entire process by writing letters to Congress, visiting Congress, making calls, things like that. You can get involved in it and your voice can be heard as well. Committee decides whether there will be a markup of the bill. Markup is the official term, but it basically means changes are made. They'll be amended, they'll be debated, amended, and rewritten in the end. The bill is voted on by committee, the committee members, to decide whether it goes to the full chamber of Congress to be voted on. If it's not approved, the bill dies in committee and it's no longer valid. If it is approved, a report is written of all the history and relative legislature in place already in the country regarding the bill that can be presented to that chamber of Congress that it was originally introduced in. By moving through the committee and transferring to the chamber of Congress, the bill is one step closer to the final bill. After approval in the committee, the bill moves back to the original chamber of Congress for approval, and debate is led by, if it's in the House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House. If it's in the Senate, it's the Majority Leader, who are the two leaders of the respective chambers. Amendments may be offered based on the rules of the respective chambers. There's a lot of different rules on how each group is led, and it would require a whole nother speech to actually go through all of those as well. But a majority vote is required in each chamber to get even one amendment passed into the bill. Only through a majority vote is the bill passed on to the other chamber of Congress after the original is finished with it. Again, through the entire process, letters, calls, visits, everything, if you can get involved in some way to get your voice heard, it's essential that you do so, because these laws are going to govern you one day too, or they're going to govern you if they're enacted also. After approval by the first chamber that it was introduced in, it moves on to the other chamber of Congress, and they are given a chance to share their own opinions about it. The same process ensues. It's introduced, it's put into committee, committee debates the topic, changes are made, it's taken to the full chamber again, and it's talked about there as well. until it's approved or disapproved. If minor changes are made, a final vote is made in the original chamber shortly after approval. If major changes are made, a conference committee between the members of both chambers of Congress are combined and they discuss it between themselves to try to find a solution that'll be good for both chambers. If an agreement is impossible when in conference committee, the bill dies and it becomes no longer valid. If it's approved, it goes to the Senate and the House of Representatives respectfully for approval on both sides. If it's rejected in either chamber, the bill dies and becomes invalid. If it's approved by both, it moves on to be reviewed by the president. Once passing through the legislative branch, the bill moves on to the executive branch, which is the president. The president has just as much power in approving or rejecting the bill as Congress does. That's the idea of the system. If the bill is signed once it gets to the president, it becomes a law. If the bill is not signed within 10 days and the president does not give his explicit approval, but it isn't signed or it isn't vetoed within 10 days, it still becomes a law. If it's vetoed by the president, the bill dies, except for one way that I will talk about later, that it could be changed around. If it's not signed and Congress has adjourned session, it's called a pocket veto and it dies and becomes invalid as well. The president's decision may be the most influential part of this entire process because after a very long process of debate and amendments, it can make or break the entire situation. The president is also maybe the most publicized member of the government today, and so getting your voice heard by the president is essential. Through one other method that I spoke of earlier before, a bill that is vetoed by a president can become a law. Sorry, there's a little feedback on it. Even if the president vetoes a bill, there's an instance where a bill can become law. Congress is able to override a two-thirds quorum of one or more senators representatives. That was words. So two-third vote, which means it has to be Congress have to explicitly say yes or no. It has to be a quorum, which means 51 of the senators have to say regardless of how many are actually in session at the time, and the majority of the representatives have to do the same regardless of how many of the representatives are in session at that time. If they can get the quorum passed, it becomes a law. So all in all, the process is, but it's also very important because the laws are affecting everyone. As a citizen of the United States, we all have this law to understand that for a bill law, it must pass both chambers of Congress. There's an agreement on the amendment. Afterwards, the president can sign and sign a law or kill the bill unless there's a two-thirds vote by Congress or veto. The process behind creating a law involves legislative and executive branches. It's important for all Americans to know this. So I encourage you as a citizen to learn more about the process and make a difference in the United States one day. We were not given these rights by accident. Thanks. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay. Next.
Mental health is a big issue. And anxiety interferes with their ability lives. And a big issue for college students and often struggles and difficulties that we're in college. And so I'm going to be talking about mental when you people kind of attached to reality.
Cassandra?
And combination of biological, psychological, and environmental factors, as well as and anxiety. The large, and there were 5 different types, which is
Cassie?
severe anxiety.
Can you, by any chance, use the headphone? I don't know if about others, but I can hear a lot of sounds at the same time. Maybe we can all minimize like using headphones. You all have access to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we get them quickly and come back and
Yeah.
Okay. Does everybody have headphones?
I don't with me.
I don't have any. No, I don't have any.
Okay. Cassie, how about yourself? Okay.
I think there's still like a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Actually, no.
Maybe if few of us are using it, we'll make it less. Sorry, Cassie. Go ahead. Like restart if you want.
Restart. Okay. Health is a big issue among a lot of people, but especially students that are in college. And it's a big issue with college because oftentimes when you're in college, there's a lot of different struggles and you have to adapt to a new environment. So it just brings a lot of difficulties into lives. And so I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of mental illnesses, the signs of them, and how it affects college students. And so first, depression is when you feel helpless and detached from reality. And this can be from a combination of genetics or different factors, as biological, psychological, and environmental. And anxiety is large amounts of stress and fear. And there's 5 different kind of like categories of anxiety. And the first one is generalized, and this is constant and severe anxiety. And then there's OCD, which causes fears and obsession, unreasonable thoughts, and this allows you to have different, like you repeat your behaviors. Maybe you check a certain amount of times, like before you leave the house, you flip the light switch times so they know off, or something like that. And then there's panic disorder, which is caused by frequent and sudden terror, or and PTSD, which is triggered by experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. And social anxiety is when you have anxiety fears with your daily social life. And it can stem from being embarrassed, or if you disorders are extreme behaviors, emotions, and as about food and your overall appearance. And there's 2 different kinds. Anorexia is when you are focused on being, and this can cause you to have negative views of yourself, views about eating, and when you consume a amount of food, later either purge or over exercise fast. Lastly, addiction is substance. And then for depression, if you're more or having and you loss of appetite or your and you have difficulty paying attention or doing tasks or work, and when you experience stress, fear, you have a rapid heartbeat, or when you have body image, you always have public, and For addiction, you slur your words with eyes, and you need that you had before. And you might have a sudden change in friends or these impaired coordination. And then it really affects college students, and this is the and 9% said that they considered suicide, and about 55% said they felt an overwhelming amount of anxiety, and 87% said that they felt responsibilities from school, and about 73% dealing with mental illness said that they experienced this on campus. And so I hope this speech was helpful because for college students, oftentimes because of school. And so I hope you maybe learn the sentence so you could help either yourself, you know.
Okay, thank you very much. The next person is Katie.
Okay. One feeling almost everyone in the world can relate on is stress. While everyone can feel it at different intensities in different situations, it's something that most people have had in common at some point in their lives. Sometimes it's easy to get past and it can even be a source of motivation, but other times it can get to the point that it's overwhelming. So I'm going to talk about the causes, effects, and management of stress. College students are known to experience increased levels of stress. Deadlines and finances can be new to college-aged people and are factors that are often stressful. Learning about it can help to understand a little bit more about what you might be experiencing. And personally, I have a lot of experience with stress and anxiety. Because of this, I've spent a lot of time reading about it. So I was already somewhat knowledgeable, but I've also done more research on what causes stress and trying to find helpful ways to manage it effectively. So stress can cause both physical and mental negative effects, but there are some tactics for prevention. First, some causes. Causes of stress, known as stressors, can vary for different people, but there are some stressors that many people have in common. Dealing with more than one difficult situation without having time to rest between them can be a common stressor. So is being unhappy in your job or your academic life. Pretty much any big life-changing event, even if it's a positive one, can often cause some stress. Everyone experiences different amounts of stress in different situations. While some people can go with most things, others can spend a lot of time worrying. So effects to those who are prone to it, a wide range of effects that are associated with elevated levels of stress. Rapid breathing, muscles, and high blood pressure that can arise when someone is anxious or stressed about a situation. Studies show that physical effects like can be more long-term, including weakened immune system, increased depression, headaches, and even fertility problems in both men and women. Some consequences of stress are mental, including lack of concentration, speech problems, irritability, and forgetfulness. So lots of stress can have a big impact on someone's life. There are ways that can help manage it. So there are many self-help techniques that can do a lot to lower your stress levels. When that's not enough, there are other resources that can help as well. A self-help guide for stress management explained how exercise is one activity that can relieve stress since it can offer a distraction from your stressors, but it also releases endorphins, which can increase your mood. Finding time to embrace your hobbies or even just spending some time with a friend can do a lot to take your mind off things and just give you a chance to relax. Time management can be effective in reducing stress for someone who has a lot on their plate, and then you won't procrastinate as much. If someone is having stress in the moment, it can sometimes be relieved by taking deep breaths and focusing on your senses. Centering yourself and taking a moment to calm down is sometimes all you need. And here at OU, there are resources available to help those with persistent stress. At ohio.edu/stresslist, there are multiple activities and resources available to help students better manage their stress. So causes of stress can range far and wide for different people, though many will encounter similar effects that they can often find help in lowering their stress levels. So even though everyone feels stressed sometimes, there are ways to power through it and achieve great things. And that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I think we have Sarah.
Nearly 1 in 8 U.S. women will develop breast cancer during the course of their life. This illness does not have a gender, however. It is the second most common cancer in women and men worldwide. It is likely that multiple people you come across in life, whether you are relatives, friends, coworkers, acquaintances, etc., will be affected by this sickness. This illness can affect any gender in a wide range of ages. There are actions you can take to stop the onset of this disease. However, there is unfortunately always a possibility to develop it, as well as there is no known cure. Last October, my mom was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. My mom has always been one of the healthiest, cleanest people I know, and also did not have a history of breast cancer in her family. This just goes to show that this illness can affect anyone at any time. Breast cancer is a serious illness that can affect each and every one of us directly or indirectly. Today, I will discuss signs, symptoms, and treatment of breast cancer. First, I will discuss the causes and effects of breast cancer. Breast cancer can be caused by environmental factors as well as genetics. The effects range from full remission to death. Only about 5 to 10% of breast cancers are hereditary. My mom still has to be tested to find out the chances that my sister and I could develop breast cancer. It is likely that my mom's cancer, as well as many other people you may know, develop this sickness from environmental factors. Factors include poor diet, lack of exercise, being overweight, having radiation to the chest, drinking alcohol, as well as many others. All breast cancer, no matter the cause, ultimately changes one's genetic code, causing a mutation. Depending on the severity of these mutations, the timeline of this illness can be long or short. The effects can be painful and exhausting. The sooner you discover the disease, the better. It is important to check yourself often and also to be checked by a medical professional for breast cancer. It is encouraged to perform a self-breast exam once a month. This way, if you see or feel any differences, you can alert your doctor to be safe. Whether you are standing up, laying down, or looking in the mirror, you can visually notice any lumps or deformations and physically palpate the breast tissue to feel for thickenings or hardened knots. If you are concerned with a certain area even a little bit, it is important to schedule an appointment with your doctor. Medical professionals use tests that one is unable to perform at home. Such tests include mammograms and ultrasound. If you are diagnosed with breast cancer, it is recommended to start treatment immediately, as it is a fast-growing disease. Unfortunately, there is no cure for cancer. However, medical professionals have put together a set of steps to follow once you are diagnosed that give one a good chance of remission. Chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery are 3 common methods used to treat breast cancer. Depending on the type, location, and severity of the cancer, these methods may be used in different orders. For example, my mom first had chemotherapy, then surgery, then radiation. She made a full recovery and has been cancer-free for 5 months now. A large part of recovery not only comes from medicine, but also from diet and exercise. Chemotherapy commonly drains one of energy, but the more you can exercise, the better it is for your treatment. Also, it has been said to cut out red meat, fast food, and high-fat foods from your diet in order to prevent and help treat this sickness. A strong support system and positive mindset is also essential for a smooth recovery. Negative thoughts and actions can have a negative effect on your body's organs and immune system internally. Keeping around positive and helpful family members will make the process easier. It is important to have someone around to take you to your treatment sessions and help you when you are feeling lethargic. Breast cancer affects millions of individuals and their loved ones worldwide every year. This topic is held close to my heart as I have watched my mom go through diagnosis, treatment, and remission of breast cancer. Although there is no known cure, there are strategies and methods used to prevent and treat this sickness in some cases. Breast cancer is emotionally, mentally, and physically damaging not only to direct patients but also indirect loved ones. Hopefully, in the near future, medical professionals will develop a cure or at least find out more information about how to effectively treat breast cancer.
Thank you. Andrea?
Hi. Imagine opening up your email from someone with the subject, mind, yo, open this ASAP, only to further read that the email just rambles on without any clear, concise points or grammar. Presenting yourself in a manner like this can be negatively impacting the chance for success in your future career. The communications director at the University of West Georgia writes, employees who have demonstrated the ability to represent themselves and the company in a clear, compelling, and professional manner are more likely to be chosen for advanced positions. I know that I personally have sent my professors email using text language, whether that be like BC for because or W for with, just like shorthand texting. And they've absolutely called me out on it. And I just think that they looked down on me after I sent an unprofessional email. So producing an email that's professional and contains proper etiquette can help us get our point across and play a better role in our lives. So today I'll be showing you the necessary steps in order to create a professional email. So the first thing I'll talk about is the way to establish a proper subject line and greeting. So there are many factors that play a role in the production of a subject line and greeting that are considered acceptable for a professional email. So the first thing that you see when you open an email is the subject line. So you need to make it something that gets your point across and will actually promote a response, because a lot of times some people, I know I will see the subject line and just not open it because it seems ridiculous. So once you've established that, you have to come up with a greeting. So the greeting of the email really just sets the tone for the conversation that you're having with whoever's receiving the email. So personally, I start my email off usually with like, hi, I put like professor, whatever, or hi, their name. Author Will Schwebel agrees and says that the reason that he likes that greeting is because it's friendly and can really be adapted to any type of email situation that you may have. So once you've established the subject line and greeting of your email, next comes the like information portion of the email, which is the body. The body of the email, it's important to communicate your point in a way that is clear and sticks to the point. This is important because you have to consider that the receiver of the email may have no idea what your email is about, and maybe you might be sending the first email, so you need to make sure that you're establishing exactly your point. So another main point for the body is to write with proper grammar and appropriate language. So writing an email with language that's respectful to the receiver is very important when you're writing an email, and having correct grammar is just essential, and you should do that anyway, not just in your email. So within the body, you should just also use consistent structure. I think a lot of problems that people have when they're writing emails is they'll just send email in like one big paragraph, and that can be extremely confusing for the receiver of the email just because it's not laid out in a nice, consistent structure. So after you've gotten your point across, it's now time to wrap things up with your closing and make any revisions if you need to. So in order to end an email from a professional standpoint, you must be able to end it in a way that is a continuation of the tone that you set in your subject line. The closing of the email is the last thing that people read, so you want it to have a lasting impact. And if you're trying to be rude to someone, then you can definitely have a rude closing. But if you're trying to be nice, you need to definitely stick with what you started in the subject line. So determining this can be as easy as saying best and then your name, thank you, best regards, or anything like that. Determining this just relates back to the subject and the body and how you really want the receiver of the email to like get the impression of reading that, I guess. So writing a professional email can be easily broken down into 3 main parts, each playing a large role in the feel of the email as a whole. The 3 main parts are as follows, which is the subject line, the body, and the conclusion. Being able to compose an email that is professional, readable, and understandable is one tool that can allow us to further advance within our professional as well as our personal environment. So hopefully these tools have helped you advance your knowledge about professional emails and how to write them. Using these tools will not only help you with your communication skills, but also may help you generate opportunity in your future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're done. I'm gonna stop the broadcast, but before I do that, just kind of like a reminder. Some of you have noticed that have not submitted your outline. It was supposed to be before the thing, but it's okay. So since our session was supposed to be from 12 to 1:15, so you have to, like, I don't know, 35 minutes from now to submit your outline. So make sure to do that as soon as possible. Okay. We're good? Okay. So I'm going to send an email reminding of like the few things that you have to do. Make sure to pay attention to that email. And that's it. Thank you very much. Y'all did wonderful. Bye.
Bye.